Welcome to the life of Bai Chun, our girl who's currently serving as the ultimate living mannequin. She's a 16-year-old beauty from the East, and her job is simple: look stunning so the queen can play dress up. Every silk drape and every hairpin is a masterpiece on her. But don't let that innocent face fool you. Our poor heroine isn't doing this for the royal title, she's in it for the cold, hard cash. This is Queen Alice, a 19-year-old who is absolutely obsessed with Eastern fashion. She treats our girl like a precious doll, showering her with the finest tributes in the land. Look at all this jewelry. Alice found a new dress and just had to see it on her favorite nugget. It's a total sparkle fest. Chun knows exactly how to work her charms to keep the gifts coming. She's a total professional at being adorable for profit. She even helps the queen level up her own style game. One quick makeover later, and Alice is looking like a literal goddess. Our girl knows how to flatter a patron to keep the jade bracelets flowing. But behind that sweet smile, Chun is counting her coins. She doesn't plan on staying in this gilded cage forever. Suddenly, the mood shifts when a maid mentions the Duke is waiting. Alice's sunny expression turns icy in a heartbeat. She leaves with a heavy air, leaving our girl behind. Chun realizes the queen has a side she doesn't show anyone else. But hey, that's none of her business because she's officially earned enough diamonds to disappear. Tonight is the night she makes her grand escape. In her downtime, she tries to enjoy a cup of coffee, but Alice's version is a literal nightmare. Back to the grind, our girl reflects on how she ended up here. She survived by relying on her feminine charms in a foreign land. But Alice is always there to interrupt her peace with more special coffee. Chun feels less like a guest and more like the queen's pet dog. This coffee is so thick it's basically a solid. Our poor heroine has to use her professional face just to swallow the sludge. She's literally foaming at the mouth, but she'll do anything for her financial backer. Then Alice drops a bombshell: she wants a thank you kiss. Our girl is savage and swaps herself out for a maid at the last second. Later, while soaking up the sun, Alice asks about Chun's hometown. Our girl remembers a beautiful life filled with flowers and family. She was a chubby, spoiled little nugget back then. Life was a carefree dream, until one midnight, everything turned into a nightmare. In a flash of blood and horror, her entire family was wiped out by court enemies. She was the only one spared, left to weep among the ruins. Alice is horrified, but mostly confused about how Chun lost all that baby weight. After the massacre, our girl was taken in by border caravans. She had to become a tiny warrior, fighting other kids for every scrap of food and coin. She finally found a spark of warmth with a foster father who treated her as his own. But tragedy is a stalker. Raiders attacked, killing the men and selling the girls into slavery. Chun feels like a jinx who brings misfortune to everyone she loves. Alice loses it and pulls our girl into a massive, tearful hug. She promises to give Chun anything she wants, even revenge. Chun just wants to rest in peace and maybe never drink that coffee again. Because while Alice loves kisses and drama, our girl is just tired of the chaos. Meet Bai Chun, our poor heroine who is currently reconsidering every single life choice she's ever made. Because the fragile Queen Alice is currently glued to her leg like a needy golden retriever. Turns out Her Highness is absolutely terrified of a little thunder. She's sweating and trembling like the world is ending. She's literally meowing for comfort, and our girl is just done. Chun tries to peel the royal limpet off, telling her she needs to be a big girl and find some independence. But Alice isn't letting go, and Chun is checking the clock because her escape window is closing fast. She calls for the maid Annie to take over babysitting duties so she can finally bounce. Annie agrees with a smile that's a little too perfect if you ask me. Chun gives Alice a quick pep talk, holding her hand one last time. But then the queen plays her ultimate card, a literal sack of gold to make Chun stay. Our girl's greedy instincts kick in for a split second, but she snaps out of it and sprints away, screaming that she's going to bed. Left alone, Alice asks Annie if she'll stay instead. The maid tucks her in, promising there's nothing to be afraid of. Meanwhile, Chun is in her room, busy counting her real true loves, diamonds and gold. Everything is packed and ready to go. She's dressed for a midnight run, even if her legs are feeling the breeze. She even customized a skirt for maximum mobility while the storm covers her tracks. It's time for the great escape. But as she passes the royal chambers, she can't help but wonder if the queen is actually sleeping. Inside, Alice's eyes snap open as she hears a faint click. It's not a monster under the bed, it's Annie standing there with a massive dagger. Before the queen can even scream, blood splatters across the room. Chun is already halfway across the grounds, getting drenched in the rain. But a heavy feeling in her gut stops her dead in her tracks. She starts worrying about that crybaby queen being alone in the thunder. Just one quick peek, she tells herself, what's the worst that could happen? She sneaks back to the door, her heart hammering against her ribs. It's deathly quiet inside, which is never a good sign in these stories. Suddenly, she hears Alice's voice, but she's not crying, she's cold and calculating. The queen is ordering a background analysis on the maid who just tried to end her. Chun freezes as she hears her own name mentioned as a hostage to keep the bandits in line. Her hand slips, the door creaks, and her soul basically leaves her body. Alice turns around and oh boy, she's covered in blood and looking like a total savage. She's holding the knife over Annie's very dead body. Yeah, that fragile queen, total lie. Chun is in complete denial, praying this is just a really bad dream. She literally tries to walk up the wall to get away from this nightmare. Cut to the next morning and it's tea time like nothing happened. Alice is smiling and acting like a literal angel again. Chun is forced to smile back, but inside she's screaming. How can this girl drink tea so casually after deleting someone yesterday? A new maid, Lily, mentions that Annie didn't show up today and Chun is sweating bullets. She's imagining the worst-case scenario for poor Annie's remains. Alice dismisses the help because she has something to discuss with our girl. The atmosphere is so thick you could cut it with, well, a dagger. Alice asks if Chun has thought about yesterday and the silence is deafening. She starts casually listing ways to dispose of witnesses. Feeding her to dogs or dumping her in the hills, decisions. Chun is basically trapped, realizing her escape plan is officially dead. Especially when Alice pulls out the bag of stolen palace loot. Everything is confiscated, leaving our girl broke and desperate. Chun begs for her life, promising to do anything, and that's when Alice drops the bomb. She wants Chun as her personal bodyguard. Our girl looks like she's just been sentenced to life in prison. She accepts because living as a servant is better than being dog food. But she's got two conditions and she's not backing down. Our girl Chun is finally laying down the law, demanding a proper salary for her life-risking services. But before the negotiations can even begin, the sound of expensive heels clacks through the hall. It's Aunt Mira, and she's practically a walking whirlwind of ribbons and ruffles. She immediately smothers Alice with affection, acting like the doting relative from a fairy tale. But then her green eyes land on Chun and the vibe shifts instantly. She calls our heroine a rumored treasure, but that fan isn't hiding the sharp edge in her gaze. Chun is already sweating, sensing a massive wave of hostility behind that sugary smile. After a quick awkward bow, Mira starts acting like they're best friends. She even hands over a heavy bag of gold as a thank you, making Chun think she's found a total saint. Alice just watches with a deadpan expression, reminding Chun that she's required at the banquet tonight. As soon as the Duchess leaves, Chun starts singing her praises. But the celebration is cut short when Alice snatches the gold right out of her hands. The pure princess has left the building, replaced by a savage tyrant who declares everything in the palace belongs to her. She pinches Chun's cheek, telling her that her salary depends entirely on her mood. Our poor girl is mourning the loss of the sweet Alice she thought she knew. There's no time for a pity party, though, because Alice demands her hair be perfect for the ball. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the palace, a much darker plot is brewing. The headmaid is gathering her troops, reminding them that tonight is the night. With a chilling smile, she confirms that their mission is simple. Alice must not survive the night. We see a glimpse into this maid's past, where she was treated like a gloomy nobody by the other staff. Being told to scrub floors fueled a deep-seated resentment in her. That's when a mysterious figure offered her the chance to eliminate Alice in exchange for anything she desired. Now she's ready to use the new queen as her first stepping stone to power. As the grand ball officially commences, Alice looks like a literal goddess under the lights. But the threat is looming closer than she realizes. During a quick break, our girl Chun notices Alice's makeup is slightly smudged. Chun tries to play it cool, acting like she's just doing her job, but Alice isn't fooled. She grabs Chun's hand, insisting her bodyguard stays by her side for the rest of the night. The nobles are absolutely swooning over how stunning the queen looks. They whisper about her kindness in saving an Easterner from human traffickers. Of course, not everyone is a fan, and the bitter Selena is already crossing her arms in disgust. As the gossip flows, the evil maid makes her move. She sneakily pours a mysterious powder into a glass of juice. Selena notices the fake atmosphere of the ball and decides she's had enough, heading out for it. Back at the party, Alice is barely holding it together, complaining about her sore feet and that suffocating corset. Chun tells her to suck it up and stand straight just as the favorite juice is served. Alice takes the glass, thinking she's finally getting a moment of relief. But as she takes a sip, the maid's face twists into a truly terrifying smirk. Our girl Alice is just trying to enjoy a drink. But wait, she's being watched a little too closely. Suddenly, Chun swoops in and snatches the glass right out of her hand. She scolds Alice for drinking juice at a formal ball and demands she switch to wine immediately. Our poor heroine is left feeling totally bullied in her own palace. Meanwhile, a shady maid is lurking behind the pillars, absolutely fuming that her first move was foiled. She's literally grinding her teeth in rage, but she's got plenty of backup plans ready to go. As the music starts up, Alice decides to take the lead and grabs Chun's hand. She flashes a savage smile and asks for a dance. Chun is totally out of her element and tries to resist, but Alice promises to guide her through every step. They start moving through the crowd, and for a second, it almost looks like they're actually having fun. Alice starts spinning her around like a top, oblivious to the fact that the suspicious maid is still tailing them through the ballroom. The spinning gets faster and faster, and that's when the maid makes her move with a hidden blade. She looks absolutely unhinged as she prepares to strike. With one swift motion during a high-speed spin, a loud rip echoes through the air. Chun realizes with horror that her beautiful dress has been sabotaged. Alice just tells her to stay calm and move slowly to hide the damage. Our girl Chun is devastated over the cost of the fabric, but Alice surprisingly tells her not to worry about the money. The villainous maid is losing her mind in the corner because her accidents keep failing. She swears that Alice's luck is eventually going to run out. Suddenly, two other maids approach and insist on taking Chun away to change her clothes. Alice is left standing all by herself in the middle of the ballroom. She starts wondering where her personal maid Lily has disappeared to. Before she can think too much, Duke Henry's eldest son appears out of nowhere. He respectfully asks the queen for a dance, and Alice has no choice but to agree. The mastermind maid watches from the curtains, knowing the problematic bodyguard is finally out of the way. High above, a massive chandelier begins to creak and shake dangerously. As Alice dances into the perfect spot, the maid prepares to drop the heavy lighting right on her head. The chandelier continues to wobble violently over the unsuspecting pair. Alice is completely focused on the dance, but then snap. The metal supports give way and the massive fixture comes hurtling down. Out of nowhere, Chun screams and lunges forward, shoving Alice out of the death zone. They fly across the floor just in time. The chandelier crashes down, nearly squashing the Duke's son, who is left totally stunned. The entire ballroom descends into pure chaos as people scream in terror. The nobles start whispering that the palace isn't safe under the new queen. Chun holds Alice tight, shielding her from the prying eyes and the debris. But then Chun has had enough of the games and shouts bullshit at the top of her lungs. She stands up looking absolutely lethal. As the crowd stares in shock, she declares that every single accident tonight was a planned assassination attempt. The nobles try to argue, but Chun isn't backing down. She locks eyes with the crowd and says the culprit is standing right here in this room. Chun's gaze is cold as ice. She raises her hand and points a finger with total confidence. The crowd parts in confusion, and she points directly at Lily, the maid everyone thought was loyal. Lily's face goes pale as she realizes she's been caught red-handed. She tries to blend into the background, but she's already backing away in guilt. Guards immediately swarm her, ignoring her desperate pleas. Lily screams for evidence, thinking she's covered her tracks. But another noblewoman steps forward, claiming she has all the proof they need. This lady reveals that she caught the other maids trying to take out Chun earlier. The two co-conspirators are brought out in ropes, already having confessed everything. They even found the maid who tried to drug Alice's drink. The noblewoman points the finger right back at Lily, stating she was the one pulling the strings. Lily starts shaking like a leaf, realizing her life is over. Alice slowly approaches the traitor. She looks down at her with a mix of pity and coldness, mentioning how she thought Lily was kind. Lily drops to her knees, begging for mercy and promising she'll never do it again. Alice reaches out and lifts Lily's chin, forcing her to look her in the eye. She knows Lily didn't come up with this plan alone. She demands to know who the real mastermind is. Alice leans in close with a chilling smile, promising Lily her freedom if she just gives up the name. The maid is shaking like a leaf as a voice bellows through the hall, demanding to know who dared touch the precious son. Panic erupts as everyone realizes the young master's head is swollen like a balloon. Aunt Mira is absolutely losing it, holding her bratty kid while demanding the servant be beaten to death on the spot. The boy can barely breathe while his mother screams for blood. Our poor maid is shivering on the floor, knowing her life is hanging by a thread. Alice steps in with a perfectly calm face, trying to soothe her aunt's explosive rage. She claims she's already interrogating the girl to find out who's really pulling the strings. Mira turns on the waterworks, wailing that she can't live without her only son. Alice has to play the part of the comforting niece while the entire ballroom watches the drama. Mira snaps back to savage mode, screaming at the maid to speak up. The maid whimpers that no one told her to do it. But then she suddenly changes her tune, claiming she tried to assassinate the queen because she was scared of being caught for stealing. The crowd is stunned by the sudden confession. She starts babbling about being terrified of the punishment. She even claims she lied earlier just to frame someone else. Alice looms over her, warning that if this is the truth, her punishment will be even more severe. Just as the tension reaches a breaking point, a smooth voice calls out for Alice. Enter the ultimate silver fox, Duke Henry, looking far too composed for this mess. He tells her there's no need to ruin the mood of such an important day over a little drama. Naturally, all the noble ladies in the room start swooning over his charismatic entrance. He coldly orders the maid to be hauled off to the dungeon. He then turns to his sobbing wife, telling her to relax because the boy is just fine. He takes Alice's hand, calling her the jewel of the kingdom. He even gives her hand a creepy royal kiss while everyone watches. With a wave of his hand, he declares the case solved and tells the guests to get back to the party. Alice keeps her mask on, but you can feel the chill in the air. The guests are just relieved the vibe isn't totally ruined. The Duke asks Alice for a dance, and she has no choice but to follow his lead. Chun watches from the sidelines, wondering why everyone is so obsessed with this guy. She's told that's Duke Henry, the man who basically runs the show. He's the old king's brother and a force to be reckoned with. He was the crown prince once and went through some seriously harsh training. He was the perfect, competent prince until his brother Rant showed up and stole the spotlight. Rant was the bright, talented one that everyone actually liked. The scales of power quickly began to tip. On one side you had the Sunshine Prince Rant, and on the other the silent and inflexible Henry. Henry didn't stand a chance in a popularity contest. The old king ultimately decided to pass the throne to Ran instead. Chun is just over here eating melon and soaking up all this juicy royalty. Midnight finally hits and Alice dismisses the entire court. She tells all the servants to leave but insists that Chun stays behind. Once they're alone, Alice finally lets out a sigh and drops the act. She admits that tonight was interesting and she knew her enemies would eventually make a move. She's finally relaxing after a long night of playing the perfect queen. She thanks Chun for helping her express the things she couldn't say out loud. Chun is low-key terrified, thinking Alice is a total demon for orchestrating all of this. She realizes the queen was just acting normal to lure the traitors into a trap. Staying by this woman's side is definitely going to be a health hazard. Alice suspects someone threatened the maid to change her testimony, but she's too tired to care right now. She decides to save the interrogation for tomorrow. Alice suddenly tells Chun to close her eyes. Our girl gets nervous as the queen leans in close. She's practically shaking, wondering if Alice is about to silence her for knowing too much. But when she opens her eyes, she's stunned. Alice has placed a gorgeous ring on her finger. It's a massive, valuable pink sapphire. Alice calls it an appreciation gift for saving her life tonight. Our heroine looks like a literal angel in the moonlight, playing the generous benefactor. Chun is instantly sold and promises to work her heart out. Forget the danger, she's staying for the paycheck. Meanwhile, in the cold, dark dungeon, the maid sits in silence. She hears the door creak open and sees a group of hooded figures. She begs her master to save her, but instead of a rescue, she gets a face full of dirt. Her master calls her a useless piece of trash for failing the mission. The culprit is none other than Aunt Mira, and she's fuming that Chun ruined her perfect plan. She curses that meddling girl with pure venom. If it weren't for Chun, Alice would be long dead by now. Mira turns to leave, ignoring the maid's desperate cries for help. She has zero mercy for failures. The maid realizes she's been abandoned to a gruesome fate. The cell door slams shut, ending her last hope. Mira gives the final order to do it. The maid's screams echo through the dungeon as her life is snuffed out. Mira decides that if she can't kill Alice yet, she'll just break her wings by targeting Chun first. Back at the palace, Chun is happily admiring her new pink sapphire, totally oblivious. She has no idea she's now target number 1. Suddenly, the ghost of the ex-king Rant pops up to explain this chaotic family tree. Here's Alice, the current queen and his only daughter. Then there's his elder brother Henry, the advisor, and his wife Mira. And finally, their son, the fatty Geraint. Now that we're all caught up on the royal mess, the ghost king disappears into the night. Selena is practically forcing our girl to try her favorite coffee. And don't even get her started on the cake, she's literally thrusting it into her face. But wait, check out that bling on her finger. Chun is absolutely swooning over this pink sapphire ring, thinking it's the most perfect thing she's ever seen. She's already imagining her life as a wealthy lady, practically seeing stars in her eyes. But when she tries to admire it a bit too closely, Selena gets super defensive. Our heroine is like, relax, I'm not going to steal it, while Selena pulls her hand back with an attitude. Chun is suspicious, but she can't help her curiosity. She tries to pull the ring off, but she quickly realizes something is very wrong as she tugs harder. Oh, it's stuck. Selena realizes this is no ordinary jewelry. It's a royal mechanical ring that never comes off. She's internally screaming because she just discovered something absolutely chaotic about Chun's connection to the royals. Meanwhile, Chun is just happy she'll be together with her wealth forever. She celebrates the fact that she'll never be separated from her riches. Back at the palace, the vibe is way more savage. A guard rushes in with the most chaotic news: Lily is dead. Queen Alice is looking colder than a winter morning, and she is not happy. She demands to know how this happened under the guard's watch. Apparently they were drugged and the prisoner vanished into thin air. Alice doesn't hesitate. She fires every single one of them on the spot and orders a new batch. She knows the culprit has to be someone with high social status to pull this off without suspicion. She stands up, looking like a total boss, and orders a full investigation immediately. But then her mind turns back to her favorite person, where is Chun? The guard reports that she's currently having a tea party with Selena in the courtyard. Alice dismisses him, her mind already working. Cut back to the tea party, where our poor heroine is enjoying her coffee in peace. Suddenly, a new challenger appears. Lady Mira arrives with a kind smile that feels totally suspicious. She invites Chun for a private cup of tea, and you just know this isn't going to be a friendly chat. Mira's gaze is intense as she makes her move. Selena is left in the dust because she wasn't invited, and she is absolutely salty about it, crossing her arms in a huff. Chun nervously follows the lady. They head to a private room where the table is stacked with more sweets than a bakery. Mira knows exactly how to tempt our girl, offering up high-class cakes that make Chun want to cry with joy. Since Alice usually controls her diet, this feels like a dream come true for our hungry heroine. She's chomping down on the cake, thinking Mira is the best person ever. But then the real trap is sprung. Mira says she has something else to show her. She whips out a chest overflowing with gold and jewels that could buy a whole kingdom. She tells Chun it's all hers. Our girl is sweating bullets as Mira explains she wants Chun to switch sides. Chun is holding her cake, looking completely overwhelmed as Mira makes her offer. The maids move in, trying to pressure her into becoming Mira's personal maid. Chun tries to point out she already works for Queen Alice, but Mira is playing dirty. She promises that Alice won't dare ruin a duchess's reputation over a maid. The pressure is mounting as the maids surround her. And if Chun wants to just take the money and run away to another country, Mira is more than happy to help her escape. Chun looks like she's about to have a total breakdown under the pressure of choosing between loyalty and a mountain of gold. Our girl is clearly having second thoughts about this tea party. Before she can even blink, the maids are already shouting at her to refuse whatever trap Mira is setting. Mira tries to play it cool, acting like she just wants to be a generous hostess. But Chun knows better. She's not about to trade her life for some fancy pastries. She knows if she even thinks about leaving Alice's side, her boss will turn into a literal demon and hunt her down. She can already see herself being locked in a basement as a lifelong slave. So she puts on her best terrified face and politely tells Mira to forget it. She bows down, declaring her undying loyalty to remain beside Queen Alice. Mira isn't used to being told no, and you can see the wheels turning in her head. She puts on a fake smile and says it's too bad that Chun is so loyal. Suddenly, she's out of her seat and grabbing our heroine's hands with terrifying strength. She claims she's like Chun from the moment they met, and it's a tragedy they aren't on the same side. Chun is sweating bullets as Mira pivots to a brand new, even worse plan. Since Chun doesn't want to be a maid, Mira suggests she get close to her eldest son instead. She starts rambling about prestige and high status like she's selling a timeshare. And right on cue, the door swings open for the guest of honor. Mira smirks like a true villainess while her son Geraint creeps in from the hallway. Chun's internal alarm bells are screaming red alert. Geraint walks in looking like he lost a fight with a chandelier, but he's still trying to be a smooth talker. Chun is beyond confused, and Mira decides this is the perfect time to make a quick exit. She leaves our girl alone with this creep without a second thought. Chun is internally screaming that she doesn't want to be left here. She tries to make a break for it, using the excuse that Selena is waiting for her. But the maids have the grip of a professional wrestler and hold her back. Chun realizes she's being physically restrained. The maids insist she stay and chat with the young master on Mira's orders. Our girl finally realizes this is a total setup and wonders if these people even fear the queen. The maids just offer a cold apology and tell her to enjoy her time. The door slams shut with a terrifying bang. Chun is left on the floor, shaking as Geraint starts giggling like a complete weirdo. He starts closing in and Chun tries to crawl away, begging him not to bother her. She's terrified as the situation turns dark. Suddenly, the creep lunges forward and grabs her arm. Chun screams, demanding to know what he's doing. He's completely delusional, claiming he really likes her and they should be together. She tells him to let go, reminding him she's the queen's maid, but he just laughs. He thinks his mom's status as the duke's wife makes him untouchable. Chun is helpless and can't break free. In a moment of pure desperation, she screams out for Alice. Just as things look their worst, the door is kicked in with a massive bang. Geraint and Chun are both frozen in shock. Queen Alice has arrived, and she looks absolutely ready to end someone's bloodline. She demands they stop immediately. Her eyes are colder than the Arctic as she glares at the scene. Geraint finally lets go, looking like he's about to wet himself. Chun rushes over to the only people who can protect her. Alice is visibly fuming while our poor heroine sobs in the background. The queen points a finger of doom at the creeps. Without a moment's hesitation, she orders his immediate arrest. Geraint starts blubbering, begging for his life, and claiming he was just expressing love. Mira comes charging back in, probably realizing her plan just went up in flames. She's shocked to see Alice there so soon. She's sweating buckets, trying to figure out how the queen caught them. She notices Selena is there too, protecting Chun, and realizes the political tide is shifting. Mira tries to play the victim, asking Alice why she's arresting her son. She demands an explanation for this rudeness. Alice doesn't hold back, calling Geraint a degenerate who tried to assault her maid. Mira puts on a masterclass in fake acting, gasping in horror. She quickly claims it's all a big misunderstanding. Then the audacity, Mira lies through her teeth, claiming Chun was the one who invited them. Chun can't believe the absolute nonsense coming out of this woman's mouth. She shouts that Mira was the one who locked her in. Mira just gaslights her, asking what she could possibly gain from forcing a maid child. She doubles down, claiming Chun asked for delicious cakes and expensive jewels. She points to the treats as proof of Chun's greed. Chun is speechless at the sheer savage nature of this frame job. Alice looks on, her expression unreadable. Mira continues the character assassination, claiming she never expected Chun to be so bold. Then she drops the ultimate lie. She heard Chun was planning to escape the palace. Alice goes silent, the tension in the room reaching a breaking point. She slowly turns to our girl. Alice asks if Chun really was the one who reached out to the Duchess. She stares deep into her eyes, asking if she truly intended to take the treasure and run. Mira just smirks, thinking she's finally won. Mira is absolutely losing it, trying to play the victim in front of Alice. But our girl isn't backing down, even as she looks completely stunned by the sheer audacity of this woman. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife as these two clash. Mira stammers out a pathetic excuse, claiming she was just having a peaceful tea time in the garden. She's sweating bullets because she knows she's been caught in a blatant lie. This savage lady even tries to pull rank, reminding Chun that she's just the daughter of a second-class duke. She demands to know how Chun dares to try and sully her good name. Our heroine can only bow her head, forced to endure the verbal lashing while her heart races. The whole room goes silent as the power dynamics shift. Suddenly, a heavy presence enters the hall and everyone can feel the temperature drop. The sound of steady, menacing footsteps echoes across the floor. It's the Duke, and he immediately drops to his knees to offer his deepest apologies to the princess. Mira and the maid look like they've seen a ghost, seeing the powerful Duke so humbled. Alice looks down at them with an icy, regal gaze that would make anyone tremble. She's not playing games today, her aura is pure royalty and zero mercy. Our poor heroine watches from the sidelines, wondering how this chaotic mess is going to end. Alice stands tall, radiating authority as she prepares to deliver her judgment. She stares down the Duke, her silence more terrifying than any scream. Finally, she tells him to stand up, claiming that none of this was his fault. She gracefully extends a hand, playing the part of the benevolent ruler to perfection. Meanwhile, that annoying brat Geraint is being hauled away by the guards, looking like a total loser. Alice turns to Mira with a fake sweet smile, promising that she'll personally educate Chun from now on. She even offers to send doctors for the kid, though we all know he deserves way worse. The Duke and Mira can only apologize again, completely defeated by Alice's maneuvers. Alice waves it off like it's no big deal, but her eyes say otherwise. She dismisses them, telling them to let the little monster go rest. Then she turns to Chun and demands that she follows her immediately. The two of them walk away, leaving the wreckage of the social gathering behind them. Chun is lost in thought, probably wondering if she's jumping from the frying pan into the fire. They finally make it back to the safety of the private chambers. Alice's royal mask finally slips as she asks if our girl is actually okay. Chun just pouts, still feeling a bit salty about being slandered in front of everyone. Alice realizes they need some privacy and tells her attendant, Selena, to leave. Our girl is still looking suspicious, not sure what the princess is planning next. Selena takes the hint and makes a quick exit. She knows when the atmosphere is getting personal and bows out immediately. Chun is still huffing, acting like a stubborn little kitten. Alice leans in, her voice softening as she calls out to her. Chun looks down, feeling a mix of guilt and confusion over the whole ordeal. Suddenly, Alice reaches out and grabs Chun's hands, catching her completely off guard. She holds on tight as if she's afraid our heroine might disappear. And then the waterworks start. Alice begins sobbing, pouting that it's all her fault. Chun is absolutely baffled. She's the one who got bullied, but Alice is the one crying. To make up for it, Alice pouts and punishes Chun by asking her to brew a cup of coffee. She claims she's all sweaty from the stress and needs to change her dress too. Just like that, the princess is back to her cheerful, chaotic self. After a quick wardrobe change, Chun gets to work brewing that punishment coffee. She asks Alice if she actually believed her back there in the garden. Alice doesn't hesitate for a second, affirming her total trust in our girl. She explains that she only slandered Chun in public because she had no choice. As a royal, she has to protect the family reputation, especially since Mira helped raise her. She didn't want to humiliate the woman who was like a mother to her. Chun finally softens up, realizing the heavy burden Alice has to carry. Alice beams at her, reminding Chun that she is an incredibly important person to her. But Chun is still a bit of a skeptic, sipping her coffee with a doubtful look. Suddenly, Alice's mood shifts to jealousy as she asks when Chun got so close to Selena. She's pouting again, and honestly, the jealousy is kind of adorable. When Chun admits that she actually likes Selena, Alice looks like her entire world just collapsed. She lunges at Chun for a hug, nearly causing a coffee catastrophe in the process. Alice buries her face in Chun's lap, whining about how sad and neglected she feels. Our girl can only laugh, telling the princess to stop being such a big baby. But Alice is dead serious. She jokingly forbids Chun from seeing Selena ever again. Meanwhile, back at the Duke's mansion, the atmosphere is anything but playful. The Duke, Mira, and Geraint walk through the halls in a suffocating silence. The Duke's face is a mask of cold fury as Mira tries to explain herself. She starts to stammer out another lie, but she should have kept her mouth shut. The Duke stops dead in his tracks, and you can practically hear the "oh no" in the air. Without a word, he delivers a brutal slap that sends Mira reeling. The bratty son watches in pure terror as his mother is struck down. The Duke looms over her, reminding her of the warnings he gave her before. His eyes are icy and void of any husbandly affection. He leans down and gives her one final, terrifying command. He tells her to never, ever lay a finger on his nephew again. Meet Mira Capet, a 17-year-old noble who's basically the definition of main character energy. She's fully convinced she's destined to be the queen, and her ego is already touching the ceiling. She turns to her little sister, Guinevere, fishing for a compliment on her extravagant dress. Mira is serving a full-on sunbeam look in this massive yellow gown, looking ready to conquer the court. Sweet Guinevere tells her everything looks perfect, making Mira even more hyped for Prince Henry's birthday ball. Mira is obsessed with the rumors that the prince is talented, handsome, and the ultimate catch. Since the ball is actually a secret audition for a royal wife, Mira is ready to pounce. She's already visualizing the prince kneeling before her, completely dazzled by her beauty. In her head, the proposal is already a done deal and she's practically wearing the crown. But the vibe gets ruined when Guinevere starts coughing, looking dangerously pale. Mira tells her not to force herself to go, but you just know she wants the spotlight all to herself. Guinevere insists she's fine because she doesn't want to miss her sister's big moment. At only 16, poor Guinevere is clearly struggling, yet she remains Mira's biggest fan. Mira plays the part of the caring sister, offering to send someone to fetch her if she feels worse. But there's a sharp, calculating look in Mira's eyes that feels anything but sisterly. She suddenly grabs Guinevere's hand with a grip that's way too intense. She boldly promises that once she's queen, she'll have the power to change everything. She vows to find the best doctor in the land to cure Guinevere's mysterious illness. Guinevere gives her a trusting smile, totally unaware of the drama brewing in the shadows. But the mask slips the moment Mira is back with her servants. A maid is just trying to prep her for the ball, but Mira looks like she's about to explode. She literally slaps the maid's hand away, snapping that she's being far too rough. She demands the maid do it properly, showing just how savage she is to those beneath her. While the maid bows an apology, Mira is already plotting to take back everything she thinks she's owed. Her dress is a masterpiece, but her heart is looking pretty black right now. She stares into the distance with a cold determination that spells trouble for everyone. Meanwhile, the sun is shining brightly as we transition to a much more peaceful scene. Chun is sitting with Alice, and the air is thick with a very serious conversation. Alice looks absolutely stunning, but there's a deep, haunting sadness in her eyes. Chun asks why Alice chose to believe her this time, especially since Mira was the one who raised her. Chun feels like she's just an insignificant blip in Alice's high-stakes world. She can't understand why Alice would put her trust in a stranger over her own family. Alice remains silent, her expression guarded as she considers her answer. We see a glimpse of the past where the maids were the only ones providing a shred of warmth. They were the ones who truly cared for the children when the nobles were nowhere to be found. Their mission was to serve, but they ended up becoming the only family Alice ever really had. They promised to always stay by her side, a rare light in a very dark palace. Alice sits up and begins to recount the tragic history of her mother. It turns out her mother had been plagued by poor health from the moment she was born. Shortly after giving birth to Alice, her mother's strength finally gave out completely. Alice was left to be raised by the palace maids, never knowing the love of her own mother. The nanny who fed her and held her became her entire world. But in a cruel twist of fate, that nanny passed away just 1 year later. After that, it was Aunt Mira and a close maid who took over the responsibility of raising her. Alice grew up in beautiful dresses, but the people she loved kept vanishing into thin air. It's a lonely existence for a girl who's supposed to be the luckiest in the kingdom. The maid she saw as a mother figure was the next one to be taken away. She passed away 2 years ago, leaving Alice more isolated than ever before. As a child, she was always perfectly dressed, but she was carrying a heavy burden. To make matters worse, her father followed them to the grave only a year later. Alice remembers being told that she's a curse who brings bad luck to everyone she loves. She looks at Chun and says that's why she believes her, because she sees the same kind of pain in her. She sees a kindred spirit in Chun, someone who knows what it's like to be truly alone. She asks if that's enough of a reason, her gaze desperate for some kind of understanding. Chun is absolutely floored by the vulnerability and the weight of Alice's confession. It's the first time anyone has ever trusted her with such a dark, personal secret. But the moment is interrupted by a knock at the door as a maid steps in. A messenger from a neighboring country has arrived and is demanding to see Alice. Alice agrees to go, but she gives Chun a gentle, comforting pat on the head first. She promises to find her later, making sure Chun knows she hasn't been forgotten. She even gives Chun permission to go to the garden and eat as much cake as she wants. Chun's eyes practically turn into hearts at the mention of dessert, and she bolts for the hall. Our girl is literally singing about coffee and cake, finally having a moment of pure joy. But the happy vibes die instantly when a cold voice calls out to her from the shadows. It's Lady Mira, looking like she just stepped out of a nightmare in that dark outfit. Mira tells Chun to stop staring and flashes a smile that feels like a death sentence. Her dress is dramatic and menacing, perfectly matching the dark energy she's radiating. She claims she's only there to apologize sincerely and that she bears no malice. But that sinister smirk tells a completely different story. Chun is in big trouble. Chun stands before the mysterious Lady Mira, who seems to have a very specific and dark agenda. Our girl looks rightfully suspicious as the tension in the room hits an all-time high. Mira orders her maid to reveal a certain item, and the girl steps forward with a wooden tray. Resting on it is a simple red lotus hairpin. Chun picks it up, noting that the jade is low quality and the craftsmanship is actually quite rough. It's covered in scratches, making it look like a piece of junk rather than a royal treasure. She wonders aloud why a noblewoman like Mira would even bother holding onto such a worthless trinket. Mira just smirks, admitting that while the item has no monetary value, its sentimental worth is immeasurable. She reveals that this pin belonged to a maid named Fu Ling, whom Alice once loved like a biological mother. We jump back in time to see a woman from the East, dressed in stunning traditional silks. This hairpin was her most precious possession, and Fu Ling wore it with a gentle, kind smile. A tiny, adorable Alice would run to her side, calling her Lingaling with pure joy. The little princess would blush just being near her favorite person, holding her hand as if she'd never let go. One day, after running until she was out of breath, Alice presented a gift to her beloved caretaker. It was the very same lotus hairpin. Alice insisted it would look perfect on her and begged her to accept it. Fu Ling was moved to tears, promising to always stay by the little girl's side. They shared a warm hug, a promise of eternal loyalty. Back in the present, Chun stares at the pin, feeling the weight of that tragic promise. Suddenly, Alice walks in, yawning and looking absolutely exhausted after a long day of interviews. Panicked, Chun immediately hides the pin behind her back. Alice's sharp eyes catch the movement, and she demands to know what our girl is hiding. Chun tries to play it cool with a nervous laugh, but internally she's screaming. Alice isn't buying that it's nothing act for a single second. She looms over Chun, asking point blank if she's keeping secrets. Chun keeps waving her hands, trying to lie her way out of this mess. But Alice notices something even more suspicious. The coffee is stone cold and the delicious cake hasn't even been touched. Alice demands to know what could possibly be so distracting that Chun lost her appetite for sweets. The atmosphere gets suffocatingly close as Alice stares deep into her eyes. Chun stammers, unable to find the words, before she finally snaps and pushes Alice away. She shouts that she's just not hungry and bolts from the room like her life depends on it. Alice is left standing there, completely baffled by the sudden outburst. Meanwhile, Chun sprints through the hallways, her mind racing. She can't stop thinking about Mira's true intentions. Mira had claimed she was telling her this for her own good, and more importantly, for Alice's sake. She explained that after Alice gave her that pin, Fu Ling vanished without a trace 2 years later. Shortly after, the king passed away, leaving Alice completely alone. It's as if the poor girl is cursed to lose everyone she loves. Mira's words cut deep. She suggests that the only reason Alice likes Chun is because she has the same oriental face as the woman who abandoned her. Mira grabs Chun's chin, claiming she just wants Alice to be happy. Chun is devastated, wondering if she's just a ghost of a memory to the princess. Mira's voice rings in her head, asking if she's actually worthy of replacing the irreplaceable. Chun pulls the pin out, realizing she should have just been honest from the start. She hates the idea that Alice's trust is built on a resemblance rather than who she really is. Taking a deep breath, she decides there's only one person who can tell her the truth. She turns and walks away, ready to confront her fate head-on. Selena cuts straight to the chase. Our girl is here to dig up dirt on what really happened to the mysterious Fu Ling. Chun's face says it all, she's been caught red-handed. But seriously, why are these two acting like secret agents in the middle of the shrubbery? Selena isn't taking any chances, since the queen strictly forbade them from meeting ever again. They finally pop out of the bushes, looking like total chaotic messes. Selena admits she still wants to live a long life, and being seen with Chun is basically a death sentence in this palace. Our heroine is desperate and begs for help, since Selena is the only person she can actually trust in this viper's nest. She just wants to understand the life Fu Ling led before everything went south. Selena sighs and finally sits her down to spill the royal tea. Back in the day, Selena only heard the rumors because the palace was strictly off-limits. After the previous queen passed, the king brought home a mysterious Eastern woman from the outside world. She was stunning, graceful, and treated like the most precious guest in the entire empire. The king was head over heels and desperately wanted to marry her. But because she was a foreigner with no background, the court treated her like a literal demon and tried to kick her out of the country. Fate intervened when Alice's nanny suddenly died, leaving the baby princess inconsolable. No one could stop the poor child screaming, until Fu Ling stepped in, and just like magic, Alice would fall fast asleep the moment she was in her arms. From that day on, she became the foster mother the princess couldn't live without. Chun is processing all this when she asks the million-dollar question, do I look like her? Selena stares her down, noting the same skin tone, the same gray eyes, and that jet black hair. Chun snaps back that all Eastern people have those features, thank you very much. Selena just rolls her eyes, insisting that the woman she heard about was a literal fairy walking out of a painting. Speaking of paintings, the king apparently hired the best artist in the land to capture Fu Ling and Alice together. That portrait is hidden somewhere deep in the palace. Chun realizes if she wants the truth, she has to find that canvas. But first, she's got to survive her current job as Alice's personal muse. Meanwhile, Alice is staring at a draped frame, her expression totally unreadable. She reaches out with a trembling hand to uncover the past. She whispers the name Lingaling as she reveals the masterpiece hidden away from the world. It's a beautiful, heart-wrenching image of a younger Alice and the woman who raised her. Back in the present, Chun is facing a literal life crisis. She's currently posing for Alice, but those 3 cups of coffee she drank earlier are finally catching up to her. Our poor girl is a little bit urgent, to say the least. Alice is laser-focused on her work, refusing to let her model move a single inch. Chun begs for a bathroom break, but Alice shuts her down with a savage no. Our girl is shivering, holding those flowers like her life depends on it. Finally, she can't take it anymore and bolts the second Alice looks away. Alice screams for her to get back here immediately. Alice looks at her progress and asks the maids for their honest opinion. The maids look at the canvas, which is literally just a derpy stick figure, and lie through their teeth, calling it a masterpiece. Chun uses the distraction to wander the forbidden halls, her dress trailing behind her. Every door she finds is locked tight, and she knows she's asking for trouble being out in broad daylight. She ducks behind a corner as maids pass by, realizing she needs to wait until nightfall to do any real snooping. Suddenly, a voice whispers right in her ear. It's Alice, and she's looking way too smug for comfort. Alice slams her hand against the wall, pinning our girl in a classic terrifying Cape Dun move. She demands to know what Chun is doing so far away from the art room. Chun stammers out a pathetic lie about the palace being too big and getting lost. Alice actually seems to buy it for a second, nodding along like a confused puppy. Alice explains that while many rooms are open, some are strictly prohibited. Her gaze turns sharp as she claims she knows exactly what Chun is trying to do. She grabs Chun by the chin and our girl panics, thinking Selena sold her out. Alice looks down, looking almost hurt. Then she drops the bombshell. She knows Chun was just trying to hide so she wouldn't have to be a model anymore. Alice starts aggressively squishing Chun's cheeks, celebrating her own detective skills for catching the runaway. Chun just stands there, dead inside, internally apologizing for ever doubting Selena's loyalty. Back to the studio they go. While some might imagine a fairy tale princess looks like a literal angel while sleeping, the reality for Alice is a lot more. Drooly, Chun gives her a little poke to make sure she's out for the count. Our girl is deep in dreamland, which provides the perfect cover for a midnight mission. Chun sneaks out of bed with the grace of a cat burglar. She's determined to find some answers, especially after realizing Alice has zero artistic talent. Sneaking through the halls with a single lamp, she tries her best to stay in the shadows. She's timed this perfectly, knowing the guards won't be around during the servant shift changes. The palace feels like an endless maze as she navigates the silent golden corridors. Every hallway starts to look identical, and our heroine is starting to feel the walls closing in. Finally, she spots her target. Behind a vacant door lies a mysterious room, and she can see something massive covered in white sheets. Chun reflects on the warnings she received, feeling a bit numb to the danger of the situation. Even though she and Alice are supposedly on the same team, secrets are secrets. She reaches the door, her heart hammering against her ribs. But of course, the universe loves a struggle, and the door is locked tight. No problem for our savage girl, who pulls out a hairpin to do some DIY locksmithing. She's not giving up now. She starts picking the lock, praying the clicking doesn't echo through the hall. Disaster strikes when her only tool snaps right in her hand. But luck is on her side because the door nudges open anyway. She steps into the darkness, the air thick with the smell of old secrets. The place is a total mess, filled with dusty junk and forgotten relics. Then she sees it, a massive object draped in a white cloth that looks incredibly eerie. She reaches out, ready to uncover the truth once and for all. "What do you think you're doing?" A voice booms from the shadows. Chun is absolutely terrified as her lamp is extinguished in an instant. A cold hand suddenly grabs her arm, pinning her against the wall. It's Alice, and she looks like she's ready to commit a crime of her own. Her eyes are freezing, demanding to know who sent Chun to spy on her. The gentle princess is gone, replaced by a woman demanding to know Chun's true identity. Cut to the morning after, where Chun is sitting in a cold, lonely jail cell. She can't stop replaying that terrifying look in Alice's eyes. It's a complete 180 from the girl who was proudly showing off her beautiful paintings just yesterday. Chun realizes that Fu Ling was the key to everything, and she's officially stirred up a massive hornet's nest. She thinks back to the photo of Alice and Fu Ling, who was clearly the most precious person in Alice's world. Now our poor heroine is stuck behind bars, panicking about her life choices. She needs to escape, and she needs to do it before things get even worse. But these bars are solid and she's trapped. She starts spiraling, wondering if provoking the queen is a death penalty offense in this kingdom. She tries to brainstorm a solution, but her brain is basically melting from the stress. Meanwhile, Alice is back in her chambers, looking every bit the regal icy queen. She's decked out in jewels, but looks absolutely miserable. Her knight Raphael gives her the lowdown on Chun's background check. Raphael is suspicious, pointing out that Chun's rescue from the streets was a little too convenient to be a coincidence. Alice stares off, remembering how alone and helpless she felt before Chun appeared. Chun's sudden appearance as an Easterner was like a miracle. Alice wants to believe her, but the logic says it's an unbelievable coincidence. Even with the suspicion, Alice's heart aches because Chun was the only one who made her feel less alone. She realizes that if Chun is actually innocent, she won't have any reason to stay by Alice's side anymore. She looks at her reflection, feeling the weight of her loneliness. Raphael asks for permission to monitor Chun, but she's actually defending the girl. She tells Alice that Chun's pure joy was infectious, and it actually changed Alice for the better. We see a flashback of the two of them having the time of their lives, being chaotic and happy. They were laughing together, a rare sight in the stiff palace. Alice admits that finding someone so full of life was the best thing that happened to her after Fu Ling disappeared. But now the silence in the room is deafening. Raphael tries to reassure her that it's all just a big misunderstanding. Alice is quietly spiraling, terrified that she's ruined the only friendship she had. Our villainess starts panicking, realizing she was way too harsh during the confrontation. Now she's in full panic mode, worried that Chun is going to hate her forever. Alice is a total mess, trying to keep her cool while her world feels like it's crumbling around her. She realizes that the tea about Fu Ling didn't just leak itself. Someone is definitely playing puppet master behind the scenes. Chun is far too innocent to dig up dirt from 2 years ago on her own, meaning this was a calculated move to drive a wedge between our favorite duo. Someone is pulling the strings, and Alice is starting to see the silhouette of the culprit. The realization hits her like a freight train, and she can't believe she didn't see it sooner. Raphael stands by as she prepares to face the music, his face a mask of duty. He's been keeping a close eye on the shadows, and he saw something Alice needs to know. Yesterday afternoon, he caught a glimpse of a secret rendezvous hidden behind the garden bushes. Miss Chun wasn't alone, she was meeting a certain someone in total secrecy. It was Selena, and she was busy filling Chun's head with all sorts of chaotic ideas. Alice looks absolutely stunned, her heart heavy with the weight of this betrayal. She had specifically banned Selena from getting anywhere near Chun, yet her orders were ignored. Selena looks so cute and harmless while dropping those truth bombs about the past. Alice hesitates, the anger in her eyes softening into a painful confusion. Back in the present, the tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a sword. A nervous maid announces that the daughter of the Duke is waiting just outside the door, looking for an audience. The poor maid is shaking in her boots, just delivering the news to the fuming queen. Outside, Selena is pacing like a caged tiger, wondering if her life is officially over. She never expected Alice to go full tyrant and lock Chun up just because of a little chat. She realizes her big mouth might have just signed Chun's death warrant, and the guilt is eating her alive. Her conscience is screaming as she imagines the worst-case scenario for her friend. She sees a vision of Chun ascending to heaven and completely loses her absolute mind. Determined to save the girl, Selena marches into the lion's den with a shaky resolve. She drops to her knees immediately, the weight of Alice's savage glare pinning her to the floor. Alice looks down at her with eyes colder than a winter in the north. She demands to know if Selena pleads guilty to her crimes against the crown. Selena's soul practically leaves her body from the shock of the accusation. Alice accuses her of intentionally sabotaging her relationship with Chun to stir up trouble. She suspects this is all a grand plot orchestrated by the Duke to weaken her position. Selena can only tremble, looking like a wet cat caught in a thunderstorm. She begs for mercy, swearing it's all a massive misunderstanding while internally wondering why Chun turned her in. Alice isn't buying the innocent act for a single second. She brings out the big guns, reminding Selena that Raphael saw the whole secret meeting yesterday. The guard confirms it with zero hesitation, leaving Selena with absolutely no room to run. Selena finally cracks and admits she did meet with her sister Chun. Alice leans in, demanding to know why she dared to mention the forbidden name of Fu Ling. We see a glimpse of Chun's ethereal beauty, the very thing Alice is so desperate to hoard for herself. Alice looks conflicted, her anger warring with her own deep-seated insecurities. Selena insists she wasn't the one who brought it up, she was just answering Chun's questions. Selena recalls the look in Chun's eyes, a look that Alice usually misses because she's too busy protecting her. She tells the queen straight to her face, Chun is incredibly, painfully lonely. The words hit Alice like a physical blow to the chest. Alice repeats the word, unable to process that her protection might feel like a prison to the person she loves. Selena explains that Chun feels like a wandering stranger forced to depend on the whims of others. Chun is like a delicate flower that needs more than just a golden vase to survive. She isn't some stray cat Alice can just keep in captivity for her own satisfaction. She needs the freedom to breathe and live her own life. Alice stands there stunned, realizing her overprotective nature might actually be toxic. She remembers all the times she micromanaged Chun's life, from her gold to her sweets. Her restrictions were meant to keep Chun safe, but they were actually suffocating the poor girl. The image of Chun as a trapped, chained angel haunts her thoughts. Is she really the villain in this story? Raphael is low-key impressed that Selena had the savage nerve to criticize the queen so publicly. Alice turns to him, her voice trembling as she asks if she's really been too harsh on her favorite girl. Raphael awkwardly tries to find the right words while Alice enters a total gloom spiral. He realizes he might have said too much as the queen's aura turns pitch black. He panics, trying to backtrack before Alice completely shuts down. Alice finally snaps out of it and tells Selena to get off the floor. She decides to settle the Fu Ling matter privately and shockingly lifts the ban on them meeting. But of course, there's a massive catch for our girl Selena. If she wants to see Chun, Alice has to be there to supervise every single second of their interaction. While the drama unfolds in the palace, the bells toll for our poor heroine. Chun is currently freezing her buns off in a dark, cold cell, crying and wondering if this is really how she's going to die. Our girl is absolutely losing her mind, begging the maids to spare her life from the terrifying Alice. She promises to behave, but the maids have zero chill and drag her off while she screams for mercy. Where are they taking her? Our poor heroine is convinced this is the end of the line. They throw her into a bath and she's spiraling, thinking they're just cleaning her up for the guillotine. Even as they dress her in these gorgeous silks, she's sweating bullets. Is she a sacrifice, a peace offering? Her imagination is going wild with worst-case scenarios. She wonders if she's being sold off to some ancient king in a foreign land. The maids lead her through the grand halls, her heart hammering against her ribs. Suddenly, she's presented with a feast fit for royalty. She sits down, but the luxury only makes her more suspicious. Everything on the table is her favorite, which in her head can only mean one thing: the Last Supper. That's when Alice makes her grand entrance, looking as regal as ever. Alice approaches with a mysterious bowl, and our girl's internal alarm is screaming. Alice offers it up with a smile, telling her to give it a try. Chun hesitates, wondering if this is the moment she finally gets poisoned. Realizing she has no choice, she takes a sip and prepares to meet her maker. But wait, it's actually delicious and strangely soothing for her frayed nerves. Alice then hands over a box of treasures, leaving our girl completely blindsided. Turns out, Alice is actually apologizing for being too busy and leaving her lonely. She wants to compensate her for her recklessness, and suddenly our girl's eyes are turning into literal diamonds. Feeling guilty, Chun admits she was wrong for snooping behind Alice's back. She realizes she just wants to know more about Alice and her mysterious past. But the mood shifts instantly when Alice spots the ring on Chun's finger. Our girl tries to explain she was going to give it back, but Alice looks like she's about to see red. The atmosphere turns ice cold as Alice demands to know exactly where that ring came from. Alice's face is terrifying as she presses for answers. Chun stammers that Lady Mira gave it to her during a tea invitation. We flash back to Duchess Mira, a woman who clearly knows how to play the social game. Years ago, Mira was already trying to buy Alice's affection with priceless jewels. She acts the part of the doting aunt, asking Alice if she likes the gift. But when she tries to put the necklace on her, Alice isn't having any of it. Alice is visibly uncomfortable with the Duchess's forced kindness. She can't stand the fake affection for even a second longer. In a moment of pure rebellion, Alice shoves the Duchess away with everything she's got. She runs straight into the arms of Ling Ling, her only true safe haven. Ling Ling tries to maintain decorum, scolding her for being so unladylike. With her mother gone, Alice is stuck in a palace full of vipers. She's been under Mira's care for a year, but the trauma is clearly running deep. Alice makes it very clear she absolutely loathes the Duchess. Ling Ling leads the young princess away, leaving Mira standing there in the cold. The Duchess watches them go, her expression unreadable but definitely dangerous. She calls out to Ling Ling, clearly targeting the person Alice trusts most. Mira's eyes are sharp as she calculates her next move to isolate the princess. She invites Ling Ling for tea, putting on her best mask of friendliness. Ling Ling accepts while little Alice pouts in the background, hating every second of this interaction. Despite the palace drama, Alice's bond with Ling Ling remains her only comfort. Later that night, Alice is still fuming, telling Ling Ling she wants nothing to do with that woman. Ling Ling tries to talk sense into her, reminding her that Mira is still her aunt and benefactor. But Alice is in full tantrum mode, refusing to be grateful to someone she doesn't trust. She's tired of hearing the same lectures over and over again. Ling Ling sighs, telling her she needs to start sleeping alone because she won't be there forever. Alice clings to her, terrified of the thunder and the thought of being abandoned. She begs Ling Ling to stay by her side for the rest of eternity. To calm her down, Ling Ling makes a solemn vow to stay until Alice is all grown up. It's a sweet, heartbreaking moment of pure devotion. Back in the present, Alice's eyes go dark as she mentions the gifts Mira has been handing out. Mira has been whispering poison in her ear, telling her exactly what happened to Ling Ling. Alice realizes the Duchess's true goal. She's trying to destroy the only real bond Alice has left. Back when our girl was just 16, her world was already falling apart. She snaps awake from a nightmare, trembling as the thunder rolls. Terrified of the storm, she decides to sneak into Ling Ling's room for some comfort. She quickly gets dressed, throwing on a cloak to hide her identity. She creeps through the dark, empty halls of the palace, hoping not to be seen. But she stops dead in her tracks when she hears voices whispering in the shadows. Peeking around the corner, our poor heroine sees a sight that breaks her heart. It's Ling Ling dressed for a journey and crying her eyes out. She's trying to abandon the palace before the king finds out. Alice can't believe her eyes and demands to know where her only friend is going. Ling Ling is caught red-handed, looking absolutely stunned to see the princess awake. Our girl breaks down, begging her not to leave and asking to sleep by her side one last time. But Ling Ling turns cold, telling Alice she's too old to be acting like a spoiled child. She insists that as the only princess, Alice needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. Alice is desperate, asking if she really can't count on the only person she loves. But the answer is a brutal no. She's told that no one will ever be there to catch her. Alice grabs her cloak, screaming for her not to go. Ling pulls her into a final, heartbreaking hug, promising she'll always love her even from afar. She claims that her leaving is the only way for everyone's lives to improve. A mysterious figure waits in the shadows, signaling that time is up. Alice asks if this is all because she doesn't love the king. Ling doesn't say a word, her silence speaking volumes as she pulls away. Their hands slip apart, severing the only bond Alice ever cared about. Just like that, her world shatters into a million pieces. Ling vanishes into the night, never to be seen again. The king sends out search parties to every corner of the country, but they find absolutely nothing. Alice's heart turns to stone, resenting her father for driving her only family away. Years pass, and she watches her father grow weaker and more frail by the day. Eventually, there's no hate left, only a hollow sadness as she sits by his deathbed. With his passing, her last connection to her old life is officially gone. By the time she was 17, our heroine was truly alone in the world. Back in the present, Alice explains to June how everything fell apart the moment Ling left. June is totally lost, wondering who could possibly be that important. Alice just stares into her tea, lost in the memory of the woman who taught her how to survive. She drops a bombshell, revealing she knows the perfect escape route out of this golden cage. Alice has it all mapped out, from the weather patterns to the gaps in the guard rotations. Poor June is having a complete mental breakdown over how calculated this is. Meanwhile, Lady Selena is having a much better morning, looking for a sweet treat. She's planning to bribe June with some fresh pastries so they can gossip. But then she spots a female knight and is instantly starstruck. This knight is serving major cool girl energy, and Selena is absolutely swooning. She follows the knight like a lost puppy, her face turning a bright shade of red. She can't help but admire how powerful and confident the knight looks. To Selena, this woman is the ultimate goal, breaking every gender norm in the book. She stares so hard that the knight actually notices and gets weirded out. Selena tries to play it off, apologizing for being a total creep. But she can't help it, she thinks the knight is the bravest person in the palace. She admits that she admires her more than anyone else. They finally reach the queen's study, but the room is suspiciously quiet. The place is totally empty, which is definitely not normal for this hour. They find a note left by Alice, telling everyone not to bother her until evening. Selena laughs it off, thinking the queen is just being a little rebellious. But June knows something is up and starts stressing about the royal duties. Selena sees an opportunity and offers to keep the knight company. She insists they can't let these delicious cakes go to waste. She basically forces her company on the poor knight, who has no choice but to agree. Little do they know, Alice has already snuck out through a secret passage in the gardens. She swapped her royal gowns for an adorable adventurer outfit, cat ears and all. They're deep in the bushes, far away from the prying eyes of the guards. Alice looks back at the path Ling once took, feeling the weight of the moment. She starts to tremble, wondering if she actually has the courage to go through with this. But her companion grabs her hand, pulling her back to reality with a firm look. She promises that no matter what happens, she'll be right there to protect her. Alice wipes her tears and puts on a brave face, ready to face whatever comes next. Alice is practically vibrating with excitement as she breathes in the fresh air. She screams that this is finally the scent of pure freedom. While Alice is having her main character moment in the forest, June looks like she's about to collapse from exhaustion. Our girl June is struggling to keep up while Alice keeps chanting about how happy she is. June tries to warn her that the mountains are full of unknown dangers and they need to slow down. But the scenery is just too breathtaking to ignore. Alice stops to admire the gorgeous flowers, completely ignoring the warning. June's mood takes a dive as she remembers a bittersweet promise from the past. She recalls a woman telling her about the swamp thistle, a small but resilient plant. This mysterious woman looked so elegant among the flowers. She told June that even though the flowers are small, they are incredibly strong. She promised to always stay by June's side, but June internally calls her a total liar. June turns away, clearly still hurting from that broken promise. Seeing her friend in a mood, Alice decides it's time for some aggressive cheering up. She surprises June by placing a beautiful crown of white flowers on her head. Alice explains that these are Cape jasmine flowers, which were once said to be angels. She teases June, saying the legend claims girls who wear them will be as pretty as angels in heaven. But more importantly, the flower represents strength and loyalty. Alice makes a heartfelt wish that June will always be a brave queen and finally find someone to stay with her forever. Alice is ready to keep this chaotic journey of truth-seeking moving. June gets all flustered and tells Alice she doesn't need to use formal titles anymore since they're outside the castle. Alice gives her the most precious smile, accepting the new terms. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Lady Selena is sitting in a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. She's feeling incredibly awkward because her companion isn't saying a word. But then the knight, Raphael, absolutely loses her mind over a piece of cake. Raphael admits she usually only eats rice and meat to keep up with her training, so she thought flowery food was for little girls. Selena is charmed by the knight's appetite and offers to have her personal chef make them all the time. Raphael is so touched she tells Selena to just call her by her name. Selena's expression shifts to something more serious as she looks at the knight. She notices Raphael always keeps her hands wrapped up in a defensive posture. Selena nervously laughs it off, calling it just one of her small habits. She pivots the conversation, asking Raphael how she even became a knight in the first place. The two settle in for a long story. Raphael takes her back to when Alice was just a tiny princess running around the back garden. Back then, Raphael was just a lowly gardener tasked with trimming the hedges. Young Alice was a total handful, sprinting toward a patch of swamp thistles. She was so happy playing among the purple blooms. But disaster struck when a massive, snarling wolf jumped out of the bushes. Our poor little princess was paralyzed with fear as she started to sob. Her attendants rushed over, terrified that she had been hurt. But the wolf was already down, bleeding out on the grass. Everyone came running to see what happened. Alice realized that Raphael was the one who saved her, and the gardener was covered in blood. Because of that heroic act, the queen broke tradition and allowed Raphael into knight training. Raphael became Alice's official knight, and Selena is absolutely swooning over the origin of that cool scar. Selena is so hyped she asks to see Raphael's sword technique right then and there. Raphael is a bit hesitant but agrees. They decide to head outside because the room is too small for Raphael's savage skills. Raphael puts on a show, and Selena is basically her biggest fangirl right now. The knight even offers to teach her step by step, which is basically a romance trope come to life. But the vibes turn sour back at the palace where the villainous madam is enjoying her tea. A maid nervously reports that Queen Alice hasn't been seen since the morning. The cleaning staff says the entire castle has been suspiciously quiet. The madam snaps, calling the news absolute rubbish. She forces the maids to kneel, radiating pure malice. She screams at them, demanding to know how they could lose track of the queen. She grabs a maid by the face, reminding them that she rescued them from smugglers. We see a glimpse of their tragic past, proving this woman is a total monster. She literally steps on the maid's head, ordering them to find Alice and June immediately. She's furious that another obstacle has appeared just after she thought she dealt with her enemies. She vows that one day Alice will share the same dark fate as her previous victims. She wants her to disappear for good. Back in the mountains, Alice lets out a tiny sneeze, and June immediately wraps her in her own cape like a protective hero. The kingdom of Silanthra was left in mourning after the queen passed away right after giving birth to the little princess. With the throne beside the handsome young king empty, every noble lady in the land started sharpening their claws to move in. But while the king could have chosen any blue-blooded beauty, his heart belonged to a mysterious foreign girl with an unknown background. Fu Ling was living her best life, even holding the crown. While the local noblewoman Mira played the part of a perfect friend during tea time, our girl Fu Ling was totally oblivious, sipping her tea and feeling nostalgic. She looked so peaceful, not realizing the snakes were already circling her. Mira suddenly stands up, putting on her best "I'm so worried for you" face. She tells Fu Ling that she's arranged for her to escape the castle before things get ugly. Mira pulls the sister card, acting like she's the only one Fu Ling can trust in this den of vipers. She claims everyone is terrified Fu Ling will influence the princess, and they're planning to strike. Our poor heroine feels terrible for being such a burden. They share a tearful hug, with Fu Ling admitting she's reluctant to leave Mira and Alice behind. She begs Mira to protect little Alice while she's gone. Mira's eyes go cold as she warns her that this plan has to be a total secret from everyone. Fu Ling agrees, thinking she's found a true ally. Fast forward to the night of the escape, and the rumors say little Alice was the one who tried to stop her. Now that Alice has taken the throne, the gossip mill is working overtime. Duchess Mira is back on her nonsense, prowling the gardens and interrogating the staff. She claims she just wanted to invite the queen for tea, but oh no, she's nowhere to be found. She demands to know exactly where the queen is hiding. Mira's fake smile is basically a death threat at this point. Meanwhile, Alice and June are deep in the woods, trying to stay off the radar. They've been trekking all day, and Alice is starting to feel the physical toll of their little hike. She stops dead in her tracks, sensing something is off. June thinks they should just call it a day and head back. After all, there's nothing ahead of them but a massive dead end. Alice stares at the path, her brain working a mile a minute. It looks like a total washout. Back at the palace, the Duchess is getting stonewalled by the guards. They claim the queen is buried in urgent matters and can't be disturbed. Mira plays it cool, pretending to be a concerned elder who just wants the queen to stay healthy. The guards are sweating bullets, wondering if they actually managed to survive that conversation. They know Mira isn't the type to just let things go. As she walks away, the atmosphere is heavy with dread. Mira knows something is absolutely abnormal about this situation. Her face drops the act entirely. She orders her maids to go investigate the cave immediately. Back at the cliffside, Alice realizes the grim reality. If this is a dead end, Fu Ling couldn't have escaped from here. The math isn't mathing, and the realization hits her hard. June wonders if she just missed something important. Alice looks completely defeated by the lack of clues. June tries to cheer her up, suggesting they just relax since it's getting dark. They decide to head back to check on Raphael. Alice grabs June's hand, playing the protective role as they navigate the tough terrain. They kept moving through the brush when they suddenly stumble upon a patch of vibrant red flowers. Alice freezes, realizing she's seen these somewhere before. June's face goes pale as the memory clicks. These are red spider lilies, and the legend says they grow from human skeletal remains. The pieces finally fall into place for Alice, and it's a total nightmare. There was never an escape route. The silence in the woods is deafening. June begs her to leave it alone and go back. But Alice drops to her knees and starts frantically digging into the earth. June is shocked, but Alice snaps at her to stay back. She's determined to uncover the truth no matter how much it hurts. She has a thought she desperately needs to confirm. She tears through the lilies with her bare hands. The dread in her heart is overwhelming. She never wanted to explore the possibility of how Ling actually disappeared. She had spent years telling herself that she was just hiding out there somewhere, living a quiet, happy life far away from the palace. But as she stands there covered in filth and heartbreak, the truth is staring her right in the face. The red lilies are the only witness to what really happened. Alice is absolutely losing it, her face stained with dirt and tears as the realization hits her. Our poor heroine looks over at the silent witness of this tragedy. She tries to force herself to stay calm, but the weight of the discovery is suffocating. Her hands are trembling, covered in the grime of a shallow grave. She reaches down into the red spider lilies and pulls out a scrap of fabric. It's a perfect match for the gown Ling wore the night she vanished. This means that shortly after she left that night, something terrible happened. Alice recalls a figure in a thick cape leading her away, but the lighting was too dim to see a face. But wait, our girl is a genius. She remembers the shape of the figure and a specific detail. It was the shoes, the distinct footwear of a servant. Looking closer at the feet of the staff in her memory, the pieces start falling into place. Suddenly, she spots something else glinting in the mud. Her heart stops as she looks at the skeletal remains hidden beneath the flowers. She reaches out and picks up a small metal object. It's a button, but not just any button. It's a design exclusive to the Duchess's personal servants. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Duchess Mira receives word that fresh footprints have been found in the secret tunnel. Her maids warn her that the queen is already on her way back. Mira starts to panic, her composed mask finally slipping. She realizes the walls are closing in and she needs to act fast. Her eyes dart around as she tries to calculate her next move. Alice isn't waiting for an invitation. She's sprinting through the woods like her life depends on it. Her companion can barely keep up as our heroine pushes through the brush. After seeing that button, she knows exactly who the monster is. It's confirmed those skeletal remains belong to Fu Ling. Alice is racing back to the castle, her mind a whirlwind of rage and grief. She bursts through the corridors, determined to confront the Duchess. She rounds the corner and screams Mira's name, but the scene she finds is a total bloodbath. Duchess Mira is slumped against the wall, her life fading fast. To understand this chaos, we have to look back at the twins who served the Duchess. Their lives began in the shadows as the children of slaves, left to fend for themselves at age 10. They spent their days scrubbing floors and living on scraps. One day, they managed to find a single loaf of bread in the trash. They shared it like it was a royal feast, just happy to have each other. But their tiny moment of joy was cut short when a cruel supervisor grabbed them by the hair. They were accused of stealing and treated like common rats. The woman threatened to sell them off to traffickers the very next day. That's when a cold voice intervened, offering to buy them instead. From that day on, the twins became the Duchess's most loyal and lethal tools. Serving her was the only way to escape a slow death from hunger. They followed her every command without question. Under the cover of darkness, the Duchess gave them their most savage mission yet. She ordered them to personally escort her sister on a one-way trip to the afterlife. Mira stood there looking like an angel while plotting a cold-blooded murder. She even had the audacity to call it a final act of sisterly love. She wanted her sister to sleep forever in a grave no one would ever find. The twins did exactly as they were told, cornering their target in the dead of night. There was a brief, desperate struggle as the poor girl realized she'd been betrayed. She fell to the ground, helpless against the Duchess's sharpest knives. The twins showed zero mercy as they carried out their grim task. Back in the present, Alice stares at the dying Duchess, completely shell-shocked. Mira is gasping for air, her face pale as a ghost. Someone screams that she's still breathing and to call a doctor. Alice demands to know who had the guts to assassinate the Duchess in her own home. The other maids are trembling, claiming the Duchess dismissed everyone once she arrived. Only her personal servants were left in the room with her. Alice realizes with a jolt that the twin maids are nowhere to be found. They've vanished into thin air, leaving their mistress to bleed out. Alice isn't letting them get away with this double betrayal. She orders the guards to turn the castle upside down and capture those two immediately. Alice is lost in a freezing void, clutching her lantern as the darkness threatens to swallow her whole. The cold is biting, and our poor heroine can't see a single thing in this nightmare. She shivers as the temperature drops even further, feeling completely isolated. Suddenly, she spots a figure on the ground and her heart sinks. It's Ling lying there like a broken doll, and Alice can't help but stare in horror. She reaches out, her fingers trembling as she touches the dirt. The smell of soil is overwhelming as she clings to the cold body, sobbing for her lost warmth. But as the tears fall, the dream begins to shatter. She wakes up gasping, only to find herself buried in a sea of vibrant yellow flowers. The smell of dirt is still there, making her pulse race with confusion as she realizes it wasn't just a dream. She stares at the blooms surrounding her, wondering how she ended up in this floral graveyard. Her bare legs are tangled in the petals, a stark contrast to the dark void she just left. Alice sits up, her mind a chaotic mess of grief and confusion. Suddenly, a cheerful voice breaks the silence, welcoming her back to the land of the living. It's June, looking like a literal ray of sunshine with a steaming cup in hand. Alice asks if she's responsible for this floral explosion, and June proudly admits she wanted our girl to have the sweetest dreams possible. Little does she know, Alice was busy having a mental breakdown in a dark void. Still, the gesture is so sweet it makes our heroine blush. June notices Alice hasn't slept in days and insists on some warm milk to calm her nerves. The steam rises from the elegant cup, a small comfort in a world of drama. Alice takes a sip, feeling the warmth spread through her. But even the milk can't hide the massive eye bags she's rocking after 48 hours of pure stress. She immediately pivots back to business, asking if Raphael has found those shady servants yet. June sighs, reporting that Raphael is also running on zero sleep and has come up empty-handed. Alice then asks the big question, what's the deal with the Duchess? June explains the woman is still out cold, but the doctors say she's at least stable for now. June's voice drops as she asks the million-dollar question, did the servants really hurt Fu Ling? Or worse, did the Duchess order the hit herself? Alice doesn't answer, instead ordering the servants to put her dream flowers in vases so she can keep them. She decides she can't just lie around all day and calls for a walk. She stands up, shaking off the remnants of her nightmare. When the other servants arrive to dress her, Alice gives them the cold shoulder, stating she only needs June. She's done with the crowd and just wants some peace. The maids bow out, leaving the duo to their business. June follows close behind, always the loyal shadow. As they walk through the garden, Alice starts plucking purple thistles, her mind drifting back to her mother. She realizes that while her biological mother was a distant memory, Ling Ling was the one who gave her true warmth. She reflects on the love she received, a bittersweet ache in her chest. She remembers the feeling of being held, a safety she lost too soon. Alice turns to June, touching her face and wondering what her life would be like if she weren't royalty. If she didn't have the blonde hair and blue eyes that marked her as a target. She imagines being a normal girl with black hair and a simple life. June, being the voice of reason, reminds her that being a queen comes with a lot of gold and perks. Alice laughs, realizing that at least she has the power to protect people now. She ties the thistles together with a ribbon, turning a weed into a tribute. June thinks the bouquet is adorable, unaware of the weight it carries. Alice kneels at a simple grave, the resting place of the woman who truly raised her. She places the flowers down, offering a silent prayer to the one who was never allowed in the royal tombs. It's time to stop being tied down by the past and start living for the present. She whispers a final thank you to her mother's memory. For a moment, it feels like a spirit is lingering among the butterflies. Alice reaches out and grabs June's hand, a silent promise to move forward with strength. The vision fades away, leaving her with a sense of peace. But the peace is short-lived as a nervous servant rushes toward them. Alice is ready to snap at the interruption, her savage queen mode activating. But the news is a total game changer. The Duchess has finally opened her eyes. Alice is feeling the pressure as the mystery deepens. Our poor heroine looks down at Duchess Mira, who is currently out of commission and looking pale. Duke Henry stands by, looking like he's hiding a mountain of guilt. He explains that the Duchess has passed out again, her injuries being far more severe than they originally thought. Apparently, she's lost a dangerous amount of blood and won't be waking up for a long interrogation anytime soon. Alice and her friend can only watch in silence, trying to piece together the chaos. The shocker, the two servants who stabbed her were orphans the Duchess herself brought in and raised. Everyone knows the Duchess has a legendary bad temper, which might have pushed them to the edge. They didn't just stab her, they looted the room and vanished with the jewelry. The Duke is practically begging for justice, but Alice remains eerily silent as she processes the story. She finds it hard to believe that two simple servants could evade the royal guards for this long. Alice stares him down with an intensity that would make a dragon tremble. Her friend tries to keep things calm, but Alice is ready to dig for the truth. They start questioning the Duke about the disappearance of Lady Fu Ling. He claims that Fu Ling and the Duchess were basically inseparable besties. They were as close as sisters, always seen together in the gardens. He insists that the Duchess has absolutely nothing to do with Fu Ling going missing. According to him, they never even left the mansion during their son's birthday party. They even have King Randall as a witness to their alibi. But Alice catches a major red flag. Fu Ling didn't even have the status to be invited to such a prestigious party. Could the Duchess have secretly instructed her servants to get rid of her friend? The Duke admits his wife has a legendary bad temper, but he insists she'd never kill her best friend. Alice decides to wrap things up, telling the Duke to inform her the second his wife wakes up. As they leave the room, the tension is still buzzing in the air. Alice walks down the hall, her mind racing with all the inconsistencies. Her friend asks if she actually believes the Duke's story, but Alice is far from convinced. She remembers seeing them have tea together, looking like the perfect pair of friends. But appearances can be deceiving, and Alice knows there's a dark secret lurking somewhere. For now, they head to the tea room to meet up with their knight in shining armor. Raphael is already waiting for them, hopefully with some better news. The knight apologizes immediately, reporting that there's still no trace of the missing servants. Alice is convinced this is all Duchess Mira's handiwork, but they're stuck in a legal nightmare. Without concrete evidence, they can't touch a high-ranking duchess, especially while she's unconscious. Alice looks at the sleeping woman, wishing she could just shake the truth out of her. It's a total stalemate, and our girl is feeling the frustration. She lets out a heavy sigh and invites Raphael to sit down and share some tea. The knight gets all flustered and nervous, thinking it's not proper for someone of her station. Alice isn't taking no for an answer and insists she joins them for a private discussion. But just as they're getting comfortable, the door bursts open. Everyone is caught off guard by the sudden intrusion. It's Selena, looking like she's about to have a nervous breakdown right then and there. She's decked out in her pink vest, looking totally out of place in the serious atmosphere. Alice wastes no time and demands to know why she's barging in. Selena claims she was worried sick about Alice and June after being turned away for days. Alice isn't buying the worried friend act for a single second. She stares Selena down with a gaze so cold it could freeze the entire palace. The vibe gets so threatening that everyone in the room starts sweating bullets. Raphael quickly steps in to defuse the bomb, claiming she promised to teach Selena some sword techniques. She grabs Selena by the waist to escort her out. This makes the poor girl blush like a total tomato as she's led away. Alice and her friend watch them leave, totally baffled by the sudden change in dynamic. Alice admits she doesn't even have a reason. She just finds Selena's face annoying and wants to be mean to her. Our girl is being a total savage and we low-key love it. But back in the Duchess's room, the atmosphere turns from drama to a full-on horror movie. A dark, suffocating aura begins to swirl around the bed as the word die echoes in the air. Inside her subconscious, the Duchess is drowning in a sea of darkness and hatred. She struggles to breathe, wondering who is speaking to her in the void. She screams that she refuses to die because she has too much left to accomplish. A vision of her past self appears as she fights the Reaper. With one final, desperate cry, she declares that she won't go down without a fight. Our poor heroine is trapped in a fever dream, wondering if she's finally kicked the bucket as she sees the tearful face of her late sister. The vision begs her to stop hurting, but even in her sleep, Alice refuses to give up the ghost. She's a fighter to the core, and as long as there's air in her lungs, she's staying in the ring. She finally snaps back to reality, greeted by the panicked faces of her maids who have been watching her thrash around in her sleep. But the dream only hardens her resolve. She knows that if she stops fighting now, her entire existence will be for nothing. She's ready to stake everything she has on this dangerous game, even if it means losing her soul in the process. Suddenly, the queen herself struts in, noting that our girl has been out for a suspiciously long time. Alice doesn't even wait to catch her breath before lunging out of bed to grab the queen's dress. She's hysterical, screaming that she's made a massive blunder that cost a life. The queen is absolutely savage, demanding to know if Alice was the traitor hiding in plain sight all along. Our girl breaks down, admitting her gullibility led to her best friend's tragic end. But wait, there's a twist. Alice actually tried to smuggle her friend out of the palace to save her. She explains that the palace was a viper's nest, and since the king couldn't play bodyguard 24/7, her friend was a sitting duck. Alice risked the king's wrath just to keep her safe because she saw her as a sister. There is no way she would ever harm someone she loved that much. The queen can only watch as Alice collapses into a puddle of grief, her heart completely shattered. The queen orders the maids to settle her back into bed, but Alice has one last emotional bombshell to drop. She would never hurt the queen because she's the only piece of her sister left in this world. The queen looks exhausted and simply tells her to rest, but the weight of their connection hangs heavy in the air. As the queen leaves, her companion June finally connects the dots about their complicated bloodline. It turns out the Duchess is the queen's only remaining family, making this whole political mess even more chaotic. But enough of the heavy drama, let's check in on Lady Selena, who is currently dying while trying to keep up with Raphael's brisk pace. Our girl is sweating bullets and looks like she's about to pass out on the nearest garden bench. She's worried her mom will roast her for not being ladylike, but Raphael doesn't care about those outdated rules. The knight pulls out a handkerchief to wipe Selena's brow, sending our girl into a total blushing frenzy. Raphael drops some major wisdom, saying that gender roles are just a bunch of nonsense and everyone should do what suits them. When she notices Selena's heels have turned her feet into a crime scene, she doesn't hesitate to kneel. She treats the wound with her own handkerchief, proving she's the ultimate protector. Selena is officially swooning as Raphael tells her to choose a path and a pair of shoes that actually makes her life comfortable. Talk about a heart-fluttering moment in the middle of a palace crisis. The Caper sisters, Mira and Guinevere, have finally arrived at the grand ball. While Mira looks like she's ready to conquer the world in her ruffles, our poor heroine Guinevere is just trying to keep up. Mira's eyes are fixed on the prize, Prince Henry, who is currently being swarmed by every lady in the room. Our savage sister Mira isn't about to let these tramps win. She declares she's the prettiest one here and heads straight for the dance floor. She's determined to secure that first dance, leaving Guinevere behind to fend for herself. But the excitement is too much for our girl's weak constitution, and a coughing fit hits her hard. In the chaos, she accidentally bumps into a noblewoman, who immediately catches an attitude. The gossip mill starts churning instantly as they realize who she is. They call her the sickly sister of Miracaber. The whispers get nasty, calling her a jinx and wondering if her illness is contagious. Feeling like a complete burden, Guinevere decides to make a quiet exit. Outside, she can't stop coughing, her body failing her once again. She spent her whole life watching her sister shine from the shadows. Born with a weak body, she's always been the one left in the dark. But for once, she admits her deepest desire to the empty garden. She wants to be in the center of the light, just like her sister. Suddenly, a voice from the bushes asks what she said. Our girl nearly jumps out of her skin. A mysterious blonde guy appears out of nowhere, giving her the fright of her life. He's serving major pretty boy energy. But it's too much for Guinevere's heart to handle, and she faints on the spot. The poor guy panics as she stops breathing. We get a glimpse into the past, into the mother's bedroom that remains untouched. It turns out the mother also had a weak constitution and spent her life in bed. History is repeating itself, as even the father frightened the mother when they first met. Mira has always looked after Guinevere, seeing their mother's traces in her. But the mystery deepens as the girls sense a hidden search for the past. Everything feels uncertain as they hold hands, caught between truth and shadows. Our heroine tries to ground herself, but the world feels like it's slipping away. Back in the present, Guinevere is trapped in a terrifying nightmare. She's running through a dark void, desperate to escape. Her heart is pounding as she senses something closing in. She begs for whatever it is to stay away. The feeling of danger is suffocating. She's huffing and puffing, her lungs burning in the dream. Suddenly, that same blonde man appears again, reaching out for her. She screams for her sister as the darkness swallows her. She wakes up with a literal Yua. Mira is right there looking worried sick. Guinevere realizes she's back in her own room. She immediately feels guilty, asking if she ruined Mira's big plans at the ball. Mira sighs, saying she had to rush home and missed her dance with the prince. Our heroine is devastated, apologizing profusely. But Mira can't keep a straight face for long and starts giggling. She was just teasing. She reveals that the guy who scared her was actually Prince Randall. And guess what? Prince Henry felt so bad that he actually came to visit today. Mira calls for the prince to enter. Prince Henry walks in, looking like a total dream, and apologizes for Randall's inappropriate behavior. Guinevere tries to be polite, even though she's still a nervous wreck. She tries to apologize for ruining his evening. She's so embarrassed she can barely look at him. But the prince is actually impressed. He tells Mira that her sisterly affection was moving and thinks she's as kind as she is beautiful. He's totally smitten. He even invites Mira to join him for tea. Guinevere watches them, relieved that she didn't actually cause any trouble. She sits back, trying to process everything. Her sister is likely going to be a princess soon, while Mira is living the dream surrounded by flowers and light. Guinevere is back to being alone with her thoughts. Suddenly, a voice tells her that if she wants that life, she needs to fight for it. She looks up in surprise. Prince Randall is just sitting there in her room. He flashes a charming smile, asking if she's feeling better. Our girl lets out a soul-shattering scream. She's convinced this is just another never-ending nightmare. June brings tea to the palace, looking as cute as ever while serving our royalty. Inside, Queen Alice is drowning in paperwork and looking absolutely exhausted. She finally looks up, realizing the sun has already started to set. She gives a big stretch, complaining about how time flies when you're a busy boss lady. Suddenly, her stomach growls and she realizes she's starving. Our girl June suggests they head next door where Selena is waiting with a mountain of desserts. Alice teases her, saying she just wants an excuse to go play. But she can't resist the charm and gives June a sweet head pat before agreeing to the snack break. Our queen looks stunning even when she's just hunting for cake. She tells June that they're definitely sitting together for the feast. But on their way, they run into Duchess Mira and her entourage. The Duchess is decked out in jewels, clearly trying way too hard to look important. She has her servants bring forward cooling drinks and snacks, acting like she's the one in charge. Alice keeps it polite but cold, reminding the Duchess that she's supposed to be recovering from her injuries. The Duchess's smile falters as she realizes she's being brushed off. Alice tells her they already have desserts waiting from Selena, so there's no need for her trouble. As they walk away, June wonders if they're just going to let the servant issues slide. Alice explains that without concrete evidence, they have to play the long game and stay calm. They'll wait for her to get desperate and make a real move before they strike. Meanwhile, Duchess Mira is absolutely seething in the shadows. She starts screaming about how vexing the situation is. She goes full villain mode, smashing things while her maids tremble. She can't stand being humiliated in front of lowly servants. In a fit of rage, she grabs a poor maid's hair, accusing everyone of looking at her with pity. She starts ranting about ghosts and former rivals, looking completely unhinged. but the Duke arrives and he is not in the mood for her drama. He shuts her up by literally grabbing her face and muzzling her. He leans in close, his voice dropping to a terrifying chill. He tells her he doesn't care how many people she kills, as long as she stays away from his niece, Alice. He tosses her aside like trash and walks away without a second glance while she coughs on the floor. Back with our duo, June is still thinking about Alice's plan to apprehend the Duchess. She asks if Alice really intends to get rid of her for good. Alice gets reflective, remembering how the Duchess raised her after her mother passed. She knows the woman is blinded by greed and power, but she still believes there's a spark of kindness deep down. However, Alice isn't naive. She knows the Duchess's personality will eventually cause massive trouble. Her plan is in execution, but a quiet exile to the suburbs where she can live comfortably but safely away from the palace. June asks why not just pack her bags now. Alice explains they still lack proof of her darker crimes, like the murder of Lingeling. For now, the plan is to be cold and oppressive until the Duchess cracks. They need to catch her red-handed. Alice is sure she's not dumb enough to earn a death penalty, and she swears June to secrecy. Then she goes back to being a softie, pinching June's adorable jelly cheeks. They finally arrive at Selina's place. Selina is relaxing with her guard, looking totally unbothered. Alice tells them to just carry on and enjoy the tea. June's eyes light up at the sight of the dessert spread. Selina's patissier has really outdone himself this time. The mini cheesecakes are the star of the show. Alice and June both reach for the same one at the same time. Selina teases the queen for finally showing her sweet tooth. Alice takes a piece and tells June to open wide. She stuffs the treat into June's mouth and it's an absolute flavor explosion. June is in heaven, but Alice tries to act cool, claiming it's only average. June calls her out, saying her perfume is the only thing ruining the vibe. Selina can only watch in disbelief at how much the stern queen has changed. Back in the cold palace halls, the Duke has one last warning for his wife. He reminds her that the queen's birthday is coming up next month. He tells her she better use that day to regain some trust. If she fails, he'll use her failing health as an excuse to exile her forever. The Duchess is left trembling, realizing she's running out of time. But don't count her out yet because she's already plotting her revenge.